Alright, hey there. It's log post number 4. I'm out in West Valley right now. I had to pick up some doggies. Alright, here's the doggies that I just picked up. So, just thought I'd come to a park. I actually just was driving around, found a park. Didn't even use my GPS. It was like the old days. I felt like I went back in time. So the last time I spent talking about the 10,000 hours rule. This is interesting, but I think that it is necessary but not sufficient. And what I mean by that is I think that you have to practice for somewhere around like those massive numbers of hours. You have to put tons of time into a craft in order to get really good at it. But there's also plenty of people that have done that aren't amazing at their craft. So think about all of the full-time workers that are pretty mediocre. After 5 years of full-time work, you're going to get your 10,000 hours and you're still mediocre. So I think the other really big thing that builds into this is having a large body of work. I'm kind of a self-improvement, self-help nerd. I'm constantly scouring the internet and reading books about self-help. And the idea that comes up over and over and over again is that you need to create a large body of work. So that's actually one reason why I wanted to do these videos, is because as I'm actively creating something, even though right now they suck, eventually they won't. I found a really interesting study that goes along with this. And it was about a photography classroom, where they split the classroom down the middle and they told one half of the class, you're going to be graded on one very, very good photo. Just take the very best photo you can, and that one photo is going to be what your grade is. Then they told the other half of the classroom, go take many photos, and we're going to grade you on an average of a bunch of your best photos. And what's interesting is they've done this study multiple times, multiple different scenarios, and the ones that always come up with the best photos or the best results of their craft are the ones that take many photos, not the one that focuses on that one thing and tries to make it perfect. I think this works. I think it makes sense just because there's improvement that happens that you wouldn't get otherwise if you weren't constantly just trying to build something over and over and over again. You have to learn how to build and refine and create, and if you don't get that repetition, which you won't get from just doing one thing, your results aren't going to be very good. One of the best metaphors that I've heard about this is that our creativity is like a poop diamond machine. And as you first start out your creativity, you're just cranking that wheel, and all it comes out is poop. Poop just keeps coming out until eventually the diamond comes out. And you're like, hey, that's pretty cool. Then you keep cranking and more diamonds come out until eventually all you get is diamonds and no more poop. So thank you all for sitting with me while I crank out this poop. But eventually a diamond's going to come out of it. So that's one reason I set a goal for my open mic night to write some new songs. Not because I don't have songs already written on my ukulele, because I do, but that I wanted to keep pushing this forward and create a large body of work. By the end of my musical career, and I would like to have written lots of songs. One of my favorite things I've heard is from one of my favorite authors. His name's Brandon Sanderson. He said he would much rather get to the end of his life having written 100 books and having none of them published than to not have tried at all. And I think that that's where I'm at, is I would love to get to the end of my life having written, having created a large body of work. And in doing so, it will make me better. It will help complement my 10,000 hours of practice. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the song I'm writing. Alright, so for this video, I thought I'd just come inside today, show off my music room a little bit. This is where I practice usually at nighttime. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this next song that I'm going to be writing, and I've decided to entitle it Nothing Special. Now, where I got that name is from an experience that I had while I was down in Mexico. I've had the opportunity in my life to travel a lot and study multiple languages. Some really good times of my life were in other countries than the United States, and I really enjoyed those times. But while I was down in Mexico, I was there for an internship with my wife in San Cristobal de las Casas in the state of Chiapas, Mexico. And I had studied Spanish a little bit beforehand. I already spoke Portuguese fairly well. I was studying Arabic in school, and I thought I'd pick up Spanish as well because I was going to go to Mexico. In retrospect, it might not have been the best idea to be kind of proficient at Portuguese and then practice my Spanish, because now they're a little bit of a convoluted mess, and when I speak to either a Portuguese speaker or a Spanish speaker, then I mix them up fairly frequently, which is frustrating. Maybe if I was a smarter person, that wouldn't happen. And maybe in my future, I'll be able to sort them out if I have the opportunity to do so. But while I was down there, I was working on my Spanish. My Spanish was fairly proficient, and I would get into these
these cabs with cab drivers, and I would try to speak to the cab driver. They're one of the best places you can pick conversations. And I would think that I'm pretty good at Spanish going in, and then I'd talk to the cab driver and the conversation would just go horribly. And I don't know if any of you have had an experience like this, trying to learn a language, but you're like actively trying to develop a skill, but then that skill lends to how well you can communicate thoughts in your head. And it leads to some pretty awkward situations and some pretty frustrating situations, because you can get out of those conversations and just be mad at yourself. So I would go in thinking I'm really good, and then it would be very obvious, like reality would smack me in the face and be like, no, you're not good at this language, you need to work on it a lot more. So what I used to start doing at the beginning of these conversations is I would tell people, no, I don't speak Spanish. And then I would set my expectations low, and then everything that I was able to say, like it would be it would be better than that. I don't think I was under promising myself, but I was putting myself in a mindset where it was a lot easier for me to just work on my skill and work on my communication and not be so caught up on my narcissism of whether or not I was doing well at it or not. And I found that my actual ability and my communication, it improved greatly just in my ability to say, hey, at the start of this conversation, I'm nothing special, but this is what I got. I'm only as good as I am. Please accept it. And I thought that was a really good headspace to put myself in every time before I tried to do anything. If you like it, that's great. If you don't like it, that's great, because I'm a work in progress, and hopefully it's a work in progress that is valuable to you as a human. So just some quick thoughts on this. I recently listened to a podcast. It's by Adam Grant. It's called Work Life, or I guess his new one is called Rethinking. But he was talking about some research where they were able to measure the level of narcissism of NBA players based on their Twitter accounts. So they would measure how narcissistic the tweet is of this NBA player. And that's pretty awesome in and of itself, but then they would use this narcissism score and measure how well these players would perform and improve over the course of the season. And the higher the narcissism scores of the team, the more narcissistic players the team had, the worse that team would perform over the course of a season. So there was some real evidence that narcissism and being full of yourself, or the flip side, not being full of yourself, really helped out the progression of the team. Something else I've read it's called Good to Great by Jim Collins. It's a study of different companies and comparing those good companies to those companies that are great, the companies that just perform astronomically better than those other good companies. And one of the arguments that he makes in this Good to Great is that these great companies, they had level 5 leaders. So your level 1 is just a competent employee. Level 2 is somebody that works really well in a team. Level 3 is somebody that manages well. Level 4 is somebody that is a good leader. They're an efficient leader. And number 5 is your great leader. And what he says makes the great leader better than your efficient leader is an efficient leader is confident in themselves. They're able to make decisions for a team and they stick to them. A great leader encompasses that as well, but they put everybody around them. They put their team first, whereas an efficient leader doesn't. An efficient leader does things for himself, whereas a great leader puts the rest of the team in front of him. This shows up as CEOs that are only taking $1 of salary for the year while they're getting stuff underneath them. They're giving everybody else more money than they're giving themselves. This also shows up as that great leader using more of their time working longer hours than everybody else. They're the ones that really care about the organization. They care about their organization, but more than they care about their own specific home life. And that's where they get their value, is by the things that they create and not necessarily the things that they bring in, that they consume. So just two small evidences in the research that maybe nothing special is being something special. So when you hear me sing this song about not being special, that's kind of what I'm trying to get across. And that is what this song is about. So thank you for watching this today. I hope that this was entertaining. I hope that you learned something. I'll also let everyone know that's been watching these. I don't have very many people watching these, even though they're posted on YouTube. It's mostly just family and friends. So I appreciate you, but I'll let you know when I'm going to actually do the performance at the open mic night, so you guys can all come hang out and watch and see if I really am nothing special or not. So have a good day. See you later.